Let's put your reading comprehension skills to the test. Spend about 4 minutes to read the following passage on your own. As you're reading, jot down a quick passage map and finish your topic, scope, purpose analysis. After that, we'll look at some questions that follow. But for now, spend 4 minutes to read and map the passage. Constructing the passage map as you go ensures that you understand what you're reading. Be on the lookout for keywords as you read. Keywords indicate what's important to the author and therefore to the test makers. Right away, you know the topic of the passage. It has to do with U.S. presidential elections and how the current system works. But the fourth sentence should have snapped you to attention. It has a new opinion. When you see some critics, know that you're seeing a point of view other than the author. New opinions also go in your passage map. So your passage map for the first paragraph looks something like this. Now the first line of paragraph 2 shows that the author will discuss approval voting, followed by examples of where this system is used. Note this in your map. The keyword, however, tells us there are some downsides to approval voting. Not everyone likes it, it's confusing. So you've got a quick summary of this paragraph. Okay, now if that paragraph discussed one of the alternatives, think critically about what you should expect to see from the next paragraph. It will discuss a different one. The first 3 words of paragraph 3 confirm your expectation, a description of rank voting. Rank voting is defined as putting the candidates in an order of preference. This definition is followed by some examples and some downsides, just like we saw in paragraph 2 for approval voting. Make note of this in your passage map. Now look at paragraph 4. The author is chiming in, tipping you off with a keyword to kick off the paragraph, although. The author says that these ideas are pretty interesting, but probably won't happen anytime soon in the U.S. Jot that down in your passage map as well. You've got a great passage map. You're just about ready to check out the questions. But before you move on, let's paraphrase the author's topic, scope, and purpose. The topic, broadly, is the American presidential election system. The scope that draws the author's focus is proposed alternatives for fixing problems in the current system. The author wrote this passage to describe a problem of the current system and to tell us about 2 alternatives. The first question guides you to your passage map. You know that in the first paragraph, the author introduces the problem with the election system and presents alternatives. Now, looking at these answer choices, find something that matches your prediction. You can quickly eliminate choices that begin with verbs that aren't appropriate for this passage. To lament is far too dramatic for this tone. No need to read any further. Also, to attack and to advocate, respectively, are not appropriate for paragraph 1. Out of the remaining choices, the one that matches your prediction is B. The problem with C is that it involves advocating the acceptance of one alternative, and the author never does that, let alone in paragraph 1. So you can be sure your answer is B. The second question asks for the most popular candidate selection method in the United States based on the passage. Now, you have to think about everything the author said about selecting the candidate most popular. It doesn't happen all the time now, and critics had suggested alternatives. So you want an answer choice that addresses one of those points. The problem with choice A is that the author doesn't speak at all about any other results of an election system, and so we know this is outside of the scope. Choice B can be tempting. The passage certainly suggests the approval system as an alternative. However, there are problems with it. It can be confusing, and it doesn't guarantee electing the most popular candidate. This is too extreme to be the correct answer in this case. In choice C, has occurred in only a minority of the United States presidential elections since 1880 sounds a little familiar. The author mentioned 1880 in paragraph 1, but this is a distortion of that detail. It actually occurred in the majority of elections. And finally, D is critical to the maintenance of democratic institutions in the U.S. Democratic institutions are not mentioned, and so again, this is outside of scope. The correct answer choice is E. Notice how general this is. It is true that multiple rounds of elections, one of the alternatives mentioned at the end of paragraph 1, might achieve this result. You don't need a lot of evidence to guarantee that. So E is the correct answer. Notice how important it is to know the scope of the passage before you tackle the questions. You'll be able to eliminate countless wrong answers using this technique. Our final question involves the primary purpose of the passage. The purpose of this passage was to describe alternatives to the current system, which doesn't always elect the most popular candidate. Scan the answer choices looking for something that matches up with your prediction. D is the answer. See how easy this can be when you've done the proper work in advance? You don't have to go back to the actual text for any of these questions. You were able to solve them with your map and with the topic and scope and purpose. Do this every time and you'll have mastery over reading comprehension.